So if you've been living under a rock, you might not know who Alysa Liu is. And if you don't, I'm about to tell you. Alysa Liu is a Olympic gold champion figure skater from Oakland, California. She was brought to my attention from the 2026 Winter Olympics in Milan. And she is taking the world, my world, the United States by storm. Alysa is the youngest ever world champion ice figure skater in the history of the competition. At 13 years old, she won figure skating's largest championship, largest competition. And then I think 2 years later, she won it again. What is really remarkable about that is that when she was 16, she decided to retire. There have been interviews of her that I watched that there were multiple reasons why she decided to retire. It had no longer become fun. She was really under the leadership of her dad, and he made things a certain way that she didn't like. She talked about that she wanted the routines to have a lot more of her input in it. She wanted to be more creative. She didn't she wanted the ability to make the schedule whatever she felt was best for her. She touched on the fact that she didn't want to be told what to eat. All things that are really amazing, really mature for someone at 16 years old to come to a conclusion to. You would think that if this is just your world, this is just the world that you're brought up in, that you would just accept it as it is. And one of the early things that I really admire about her is her ability to resist and be like, wait, no, I'm not going to do things just because you tell me that's the way I need to do them. This is what I love. This is my passion. And if I can't do it the way I deem best for myself, then I'm not going to do it. It really demonstrated autonomy and the ability to choose for yourself. And it just gave a real life example of like, at whatever age, we as humans have that ability to do that. Later on, she returned to figure skating. She missed the thrill. To her, it's really more of an artistic expression rather than a sport. She identifies both aspects, but she's really most interested, or from my research, seemingly most interested in the artistic expression of it. Later on, again, she was missing that competition, that stage. As any artists do, you crave the need to express your artistic expression, and you crave an audience to deliver that to. So she returned. She literally returned to form exactly as before. And then this year at the Winter Olympics, she won gold for America. The first time that has happened since either 2002 or 2006. The reason I'm so excited about her is just how amazing is it that like someone who can 100% authentically be themselves, especially at such a young age. She's only 20 years old, and even before that, making decisions about her life, for her career, that will have a resonating impact for the rest of her life. And to have the awareness at that age to make those decisions is really admirable. As I said before, what I was doing at 14, I don't know if I would be able to make those type of decisions, let alone deliver at the level that she's delivering at. And I think also her look is really cool. She has like a halo hairstyle where like some of the... And another thing that personally draws me to her is her being from Oakland, California. I'm from the East Bay. I live in Oakland now. And I just think it's so cool, and she represents us so well. And it is about diversity. It is about knowing what you want. It is about, you know, all of those things, and it is about being uniquely yourself, and it is about grit and determination and persevering and all those things. And I think she represents that so well. The Bay is so that, like, it's so... I'm surrounded by so many people that are so driven and productive, and that has its own toxic qualities too, but she kind of even touches on that. There's videos of her that I've seen where she talks about that, and even what I said earlier, she understands when it gets to a point of being toxic, or when it gets to a point of like, okay, this is not the life I see for myself, like let me change what I can in order to get what I need. So all of that is like why I'm so obsessed with her. And it goes without saying, she's insanely talented, does things that are like crazy out of this world that like I can't believe a human is able to do on a pair of ice skates in an ice rink. Like, it goes without saying, but it should be definitely mentioned. She is a master at her craft, and she's so young, and it's so impressive. And I find myself a lot of the times admiring the younger people, the younger folks, the younger generation. I feel like for so long I've been in an area where I felt like I had to conform, fit in a box, or do things a certain way. And people like her remind me that no, there is so many different ways to go about doing things, and just being so excited about life is actually a cool thing. And there's no need to sort of fit yourself in a box when you don't have to. And a lot of the videos I've seen from her have this sort of overarching theme about detaching from outcome. She's quoted saying, "Winning isn't all that, and neither is losing. It's just something that happens. It's the outcome. But what matters is the input and the journey." Wow. Like, come on. 20-year-old saying that? Like, what 20-year-old is saying that, you know? And that's exactly what I'm talking about, this idea of detaching from outcomes, where you're not focused on how things end or how things will result, because you can't predict that. There's no way that you can determine that every single time. I'm sure there's means of reasonably making sure that you get within a general area that you're trying to aim for, but you can never always guess. Things are constantly changing and evolving, and the means of getting there oftentimes are changing as well. And it's kind of that corny saying, like, love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life, which I don't fully believe, but it is sort of that, like, you're falling in love with the process. Like she would be skating regardless of what the result is. She's already winning. She's already completely satisfied simply because she skated. If she would have fallen, done something incorrectly, gotten a terrible score, then she wouldn't care, because what she's after is the process and the experience. And I'm so interested in modeling my life after that. Like, it can be simply related to things I'm doing, like work and money. Like, for a long time, everything I was doing was just for the sake of money. And we live in a world where you have to do that. You know, Alyssa's one of the lucky ones where she has the option. But I think there are small, tiny ways that can compound in order for you to, or anyone, for me, to achieve that same thing. It's about taking something from every situation. What did I get? Did I learn? Did I grow? Did I understand a different boundary that I didn't know before? Did I understand someone else's boundary? Did I learn something more about the world? Was the world opened up for me? That in itself is the reward and rewarding. And then any other outcome or result is cherry on the top, right? If you're growing, you're not losing. And another thing she said, I think it was in the same interview, of the first quote that I read, which was, "I connect with everything, but I'm not attached to anything." To me, that was so profound. Like, in this digital world where so many things are online, so many things are about getting to the next quick dopamine hit. It's about the newer, better, younger. It's never about maintaining, appreciating, taking a minute to focus and understand where you are. And human connection is the new frontier. It's the old frontier, but it's the new frontier. Right now, it's all about the digital world. A lot of us experience so many things online, whether it's our work, whether it's our social life. Everything is happening in this digital space, which creates a very interesting way of connecting with other people. You know, that's what brought about this social media craze of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. You know, it was to encourage more of that. And I think in some ways it does encourage more of a connection. But I think now we've sort of run in a extreme direction where it's all about connecting in digital space. It's all about what you're doing online. And I think it's so interesting for her to say, "I connect with everything, but I'm not attached to anything." She seeks, I'm understanding it as seeking a human connection, being real, but understanding that even that can change. That can be different tomorrow or in a year or next year, and that's okay. It's just life, and you move on to the next thing. And that whole mindset really has me thinking about Buddhism. I've been super interested in it before, watched some videos, so I'm not any type of expert, but I think the concept and the practice is super interesting. And that's exactly what it is, right? I think Buddhism gets mixed in or grouped together with Islam, Christianity, Judaism. But I think that scholars would describe it more of a practice and a way of life rather than a religion in the way that those other actual religions are. And bring my notes. The goal of Buddhism is to liberate your mind of all unsatisfactoriness or suffering. I think you can think of things, if you're familiar with Buddhism, that life is suffering. That's a common thing to be said or read when looking into Buddhism. From a Buddhist perspective, it can be said that life is suffering. One of the Four Noble Truths, which those Four Noble Truths are one component on this sort of guide on how to reach enlightenment within Buddhism. And the first noble truth is what I just touched on: life is suffering, or life is dukkha, dukkha could be roughly translated to suffering or dissatisfaction. And I think it can have a negative connotation if just understood at face value. But I think, and I've read and understood that it needs to be delved into further to understand that life is constantly changing. The outcomes constantly change. How to get to those outcomes change. We constantly want more, different, better. That's sort of the foundation of American economics. In commerce, you get a new iPhone every year, you get a new MacBook in 2 years, and you can feel a sense of societal shame, or a very low amount if you don't have the newest iPhone, if you have something old and battered. But to me, life is suffering is just life is dissatisfaction, which is another transition of dukkha, is simply to state that you'll always want something different, you'll always want something more. It's best to appreciate what you have now. There will always be change. There will be times where often there will be times where you want things to be different than they are now, and that is suffering. There are ways to circumvent. And one of the ways is by acknowledging the second noble truth, which is dukkha is derived from desire. Suffering or dissatisfaction is derived from desire. And it's all the things that I just mentioned, right? Life is always dissatisfying because humans cling to temporary things. Things can never measure up to your expectations, what you think in your mind, wanting things you don't have, and then wanting the way things are to change. And I think about my own life and how I have suffering from exactly those reasons, right? That's why Buddhism really resonates with me. To me, it feels like a worship of just the way things are, my physical world as well as my spiritual and inner world, and it feels like it combines those two really well. It's to say that you enjoy things without attachment. I also interpret it as like identification, right? I don't identify with the things around me and the things that I have. That goes a little bit more into Eckhart Tolle and the Power of Now, which I think is separate but related. But I see them similarly. Alysa Liu has these gold medals, but she's not attached to them. She doesn't make meaning of them. It isn't how she derives her self-worth. She doesn't identify from them. She doesn't identify with them. They're not who she is. It is a thing in her life that'll be different or feel different a year from now, that was different a year ago, that she didn't have a year ago. And if you follow this practice, this mindset, this way of being, your circumstances can change, but who you are, what makes you happy, how you operate, navigate, find satisfaction from the world is a constant, because it's not up to the ever-changing conditions of life, right? To me, it also kind of goes back to the serenity prayer. I don't have it memorized, but it's a technique in AA for assisting people to get sober. It's about asking God, give me the strength to accept things that you can't change. To give me the strength to accept things that I can't change. It's about acknowledging I'm just here now in this present moment, and there's nothing I can do in this exact moment to change that. So let me not suffer for that reason. I'm just here now.